actual jurors.
I do want to mention one other quick thing. They can't find witness number 3 still. This is apparently an ex-girlfriend of Diddy's who was one of the alleged victims.
And
prosecution can't find her.
Right, her.
Today in a New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs told the judge he was, quote, a little nervous. The rap mogul's criminal trial began this morning. He is trafficking, racketeering, and more.
Let's pull back the curtain on Sean Diddy Combs' infamous freakoff gatherings. Events that weren't just exclusive. They were shrouded in secrecy and dripping with allegations that have left the entertainment world shaken to its core. These weren't the glamorous parties you see splashed across glossy magazines or Instagram feeds. No, these were something else entirely. Behind the gates of sprawling mansions and in the privacy of luxury hotels, a darker, far more unsettling narrative begins to unfold. These events have been described as orchestrated productions where every detail served a purpose and every participant played a role, whether they wanted to or not.
Attorney is trying to find her, and her attorney has said that she may not be willing to come and testify anyway. So
let's start with how these gatherings were set up. According to investigators and those who have come forward, Diddy's team ran these events with the precision of a military operation. Staff meticulously prepared the venues, stocking them with what can only be described as an overwhelming surplus of certain personal products. Over 1,000 bottles of lubricants and oils were confiscated during federal raids on his homes in Miami and Los Angeles earlier this year. What kind of event requires that quantity of supplies? The mind reels. These so-called freak-offs weren't just spontaneous celebrations. They were planned, managed, and executed with chilling efficiency. There were even reports of IV fluid deliveries, allegedly to help guests recover from whatever had transpired the night before. It paints a picture of indulgence so extreme, it borders on dystopian. And then there's the guest list. These weren't just Hollywood hopefuls or anonymous partygoers. These were the biggest names in the industry. A-listers, athletes, and music moguls all found themselves in Diddy's orbit. Will Smith, for example, has been repeatedly linked to Diddy's social events, though he's adamantly denied participating in the more intimate and controversial gatherings. Smith addressed the rumors publicly at a recent event, denying any involvement with a mix of humor and frustration. I don't even like baby oil, he joked, referencing one of the more bizarre details unearthed during the federal investigation. But here's the thing, photos don't lie. Images of Smith and Diddy laughing together, attending parties, and sharing moments in the spotlight have resurfaced, fueling speculation about how deep their connection really goes.
It was my man. This is probably irreparable.
What's more, the rumors surrounding these events aren't just coming from the tabloids. Former attendees and even employees have begun to speak out, painting a picture of gatherings where the lines between consent and coercion were dangerously blurred. Some have described being invited under the pretense of networking opportunities or career advancement, only to find themselves in situations they couldn't easily escape. One former staff member, now a key figure in the investigation, has reportedly detailed how travel arrangements were made for guests. Accommodations were prearranged, and certain supplies were delivered in advance, right down to custom lighting and linens. Everything had its place, and everything was under Diddy's control. And speaking of control, let's talk about victim 3, the missing witness who has become a focal point of the federal case against Diddy. This individual was expected to deliver explosive testimony about what allegedly happened at these gatherings. According to prosecutors, she was prepared to drop her pseudonym and testify under her real name, a move that speaks volumes about the seriousness of her claims. But now, she's vanished. Neither she nor her attorney can be located, and the prosecution has admitted they're struggling to secure her testimony. It's a twist that raises more questions than answers. Was she intimidated into silence? Did she disappear out of fear? Or is there something even more sinister at play? Her absence doesn't just weaken the case, it casts a shadow over the entire investigation.
The defense wanted to propose a question on, after the potential jurors filled out their questionnaire, have they seen any news media, any documentaries, anything just relating to a news medium, and whether or not they saw it in between them filling out the questionnaire to Monday morning when they saw, or when they go to jury selection. So essentially meaning
the timing of her disappearance is particularly suspect, especially given Diddy's history of allegedly using his wealth and influence to protect himself. Several lawsuits against him have described a pattern of intimidation and retaliation. One former employee claims that Diddy regularly used threatening language to ensure loyalty, allegedly telling staff members, "You don't cross me, ever." Another accuser has stated that she was blacklisted from the industry after refusing his advances, her career effectively over before it even began. These stories, whether proven or not, paint a picture of a man who didn't just wield power. He weaponized it. But here's where things get even murkier. The very nature of these allegations makes it hard to separate fact from fiction. For instance, some have claimed that Diddy's parties operated like secret societies, complete with unwritten rules and an unspoken hierarchy. Guests who were in the know supposedly understood the implicit expectations of attending, while others were left to navigate an environment that could quickly turn hostile. One attendee described feeling trapped, saying that leaving early wasn't an option without drawing unwanted attention. Another claimed that cell phones were confiscated upon entry, ensuring that no photos or videos could leak. If true, these measures suggest a level of paranoia, and perhaps a reason why so few details have surfaced until now. And yet, despite the mounting allegations, Diddy's defense team has been quick to dismiss these claims as nothing more than sensationalized fabrications. They argue that the freakoffs were consensual gatherings among adults and that the narrative being spun in the media is part of a larger effort to tarnish his reputation. But the evidence says otherwise. Federal agents reportedly uncovered video footage during their raids, footage that allegedly documents some of the very activities being described by accusers. And while the defense argues that these recordings were consensual, the sheer existence of such material raises serious ethical and legal questions.
Which, again, the judge kind of made this a point, too, talking about, okay, well, if we're going to continue to do sidebars each and every single time that a prospective juror has to talk about a sensitive topic, that could take up a lot of time. But again, the defense and the government both seem pretty confident that they'll still be able to kind of get it going at a quick pace. This isn't unusual to do in these types of high-profile cases. So that was pretty much just the topics about, Ghislaine Maxwell, as well as...
Then there's the issue of Will Smith's denials. While he's made it clear he wants no part of this scandal, his past association with Diddy continues to draw scrutiny. Online, the memes and rumors are relentless, with some suggesting that Smith's public persona as a family-friendly icon might not be the whole story. Could it be that the whole story? Could it be that these allegations are merely a case of guilty by association? Or is there more to the relationship between Smith and Diddy than meets the eye? Smith's recent statement, "I've got enough of my own drama," might have been meant to deflect attention, but it only adds fuel to the fire. After all, what drama is he referring to?
I would say don't just start filming me without asking me
Oh my goodness.
if you could film me.
Astaire, come help us again, please. I'm still dealing with foolishness.
And let's not forget the broader context here. Hollywood has long been a breeding ground for exploitation, with countless figures using their influence to shield themselves from accountability. Diddy's case isn't just about what allegedly happened at a few parties. It's a microcosm of a much larger problem. The entertainment industry thrives on power imbalances, and for years, those at the top have been able to operate with impunity. But now, with the spotlight firmly fixed on Diddy, the cracks in that system are starting to show. As the trial looms closer, one thing is clear. This story is far from over. Each new detail, each new disappearance, and each new disappearance, and each new denial only deepens the mystery. What really happened behind those closed doors? Who knew about it? And who helped cover it up? And most importantly, how many more secrets are waiting to be uncovered?
Kind of pointed out that they will be adding 2 defense attorneys. We only thought initially it was 1, but one thing that stood out to me when Mark Agnifilo was talking about this was he said that these defense attorneys are in the courtroom right now. I didn't see Mark Garagos in that courtroom, but what I did see is 2 defense attorneys that have been there when Brian Steele came on board, and those 2 defense attorneys.
And just when you think this tangled mess of accusations, betrayals, and buried secrets couldn't possibly get worse, the cracks spread wider, pulling more names, more whispers, and even more chaos into the spotlight. If the allegations themselves weren't damning enough, the fallout from this web of scandal has begun to tear through the entertainment industry like a wrecking ball, and no one seems to be safe from the debris. The public fallout has turned into a fever pitch, with fans, critics, and even former allies turning on one another as everyone scrambles to figure out who knew what, who said nothing, and who might actually be guilty of something. And as for Diddy, well, his very empire may be crumbling from the inside out. Let's start with the reactions from those in the industry. Diddy's once impenetrable circle has begun to show signs of splintering. Rumors are swirling about former collaborators who've distanced themselves quietly, deleting old photos, unfollowing him on social platforms, or outright refusing to comment when asked about their connections to him. Take a closer look at the social feeds of some of the biggest names in hip-hop and entertainment, and you'll find a curious silence where there used to be public shout-outs and adoration. Even his former protégés, artists who owe much of their careers to his influence, are treading carefully, issuing vague statements about letting the legal process play out while noticeably omitting any words of support. If loyalty was once the currency of Diddy's kingdom, it appears that currency is rapidly losing its value.
The judge didn't go into not really the judge, the government didn't go into too many details about the extent of the plea offer, but one thing that they had said was pretty much that under the plea offer, he would be facing less time than he's facing if he would have gone to trial. So when the allocution portion came, Diddy stood up, the judge kind of read him everything that he had needed to read to him, just about whether or not he was a...
But what about the fans? Public opinion is a beast all its own, and in this case, it's as unpredictable as ever. On one hand, you have staunch defenders, those who refuse to believe a man who gave us hit after hit could be capable of such calculated cruelty. They cling to the image of the charismatic mogul who danced in shiny suits and threw unforgettable parties. On the other hand, there's a growing faction of skeptics who are piecing together the allegations, the lawsuits, and the federal investigations like a grim jigsaw puzzle. And the picture it's creating isn't pretty. Social media has become a battleground, with hashtags calling for accountability clashing against those insisting these accusations are part of some larger conspiracy to bring down a successful black man. The debates are heated, relentless, and often deeply personal.
Plea offer that came up in the last hearing where the government said we did offer him a deal or an offer, I should say, and that he rejected it. And now it's official, and he said it to the court as well, too. You know, he stood up, he said that he consulted with this about his attorneys, and it seems like they're planning, or not even seems like they're rolling the dice by going to.
And let's not forget about the lawsuits. While Diddy's criminal trial looms large, there's another storm brewing in the form of civil suits, and one of the most shocking involves none other than Jay-Z. Yes, the mogul often seen as Diddy's counterpart in success and ambition now finds himself dragged into the chaos. One lawsuit alleges that both Diddy and Jay-Z were present at an after-party decades ago where deeply troubling behavior allegedly took place. The plaintiff's story is harrowing, and while Jay-Z has denied the claims and filed motions to dismiss, the very fact that his name is attached to the scandal has sent shockwaves through his carefully curated public image. Jay-Z, the man who once rapped about rising from the streets to become a billionaire businessman, now finds himself battling allegations that could tarnish his legacy in ways no brand deal or chart-topping album could ever repair.
This morning, rap mogul Jay-Z is denying allegations he sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl alongside rapper Sean Diddy Combs. That civil lawsuit filed against Combs in October was amended Sunday to include Jay-Z. The accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, says she was sexually assaulted by both men.
And here's where things get truly twisted. The lawsuits, the criminal charges, the public scrutiny, it's all feeding into a larger narrative about power and silence in the entertainment industry. Over the years, how many stories have we heard about powerful men using their influence to silence accusers or make problems disappear? And how many more stories have we not heard because those same systems of power buried them before they ever surfaced? The allegations against Diddy, and now the tangential involvement of other major figures, are forcing the industry to confront some deeply uncomfortable truths. These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a pattern, one that's been allowed to thrive in the shadows for far too long. And then there's the matter of the missing witness. Victim 3, who was supposed to be a cornerstone of the prosecution's case, remains unaccounted for, leaving a gaping hole in the narrative. But here's what's even more unsettling. Her disappearance has only added fuel to the speculation that this case goes far deeper than anyone initially thought. What kind of pressure must someone be under to vanish in the middle of one of the most high-profile cases in entertainment history? And what does her absence mean for the other witnesses, particularly those who've already agreed to testify? The prosecution insists they still have a strong case, but without Victim 3, that confidence feels tenuous at best.
I want to start with just the statement from Jay-Z, which is so forceful in its denial. I just read a teeny part of it, it's long, where he says that they should file a criminal complaint. Is that even possible at this point?
Meanwhile, as the legal teams battle it out in court, the cultural ramifications are spilling into every corner of the industry. Diddy's once lucrative partnerships are reportedly being reevaluated, with some companies quietly pausing campaigns and others outright severing ties. It's a far cry from the days when Diddy's name alone could sell anything from clothing to beverages. And while he's far from the first celebrity to face this kind of backlash, the scale of it feels unprecedented. This isn't just about one man's reputation. It's about the ripple effects that are spreading across an entire ecosystem of fame, money, and unchecked power. Even Beyoncé and Jay-Z, who have long been seen as the untouchable power couple of the industry, are feeling the heat. Beyoncé's fans, known for their fierce loyalty, have taken to dissecting old photos and interviews, searching for any connection or clue that might implicate her or her husband in this growing scandal. It's a level of scrutiny that no one, not even Queen Bey, can escape. And while there's no evidence to suggest she had any involvement, the very act of being adjacent to this controversy is enough to raise eyebrows. In the court of public opinion, guilt by association is often all it takes.
Now, he, of course, is more than annoyed, would be an understatement.
Yeah.
He has a family and he has a lot to protect, including his brand. But to the extent that he's saying, hey, come after me criminally, that could be likely. Why do I say that? Because in New York, and what's alleged in this complaint is forcible compulsion. What that means in English is that it's saying that he held her down, raped her.
But perhaps the most chilling aspect of this entire saga is the sense that we're only scratching the surface. For every story that's come to light, how many more remain hidden? For every accuser who's spoken out, how many have stayed silent out of fear, shame, or uncertainty? The entertainment industry has long been a place where power dynamics skew heavily in favor of the few at the top, leaving those below them vulnerable to exploitation. And while the public may demand accountability, the reality is that systemic change is far harder to achieve. So where does this leave us? With a scandal that's as messy as it is far-reaching, with reputations crumbling, alliances dissolving, and more questions than answers. Will Diddy's trial bring closure, or will it simply open the door to even more revelations? And what about the others? Those whose names have been whispered in connection to these allegations but haven't yet been publicly dragged into the fray? Are they breathing a sigh of relief, or are they bracing for impact? Let us know what you think down below. Are we witnessing the toppling of an empire? Or is this just another chapter in Hollywood's endless cycle of scandal and survival? Keep those comments coming, and we'll see you in the next one.